Hello, welcome back to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. I'm Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff, and this is our Star Wars show. Thank you for joining us. Everything going on in the world of Star Wars, we talk about it. The full council is here. First, she had to stick her finger in my ear. It is the Smith Lord, Tiffany Smith. What's up?
Hi, guys. Sorry, sometimes I'm really immature. Kristian and I have been working together for a long time now, so he's like my annoying older brother, which is why I poke him and stuff. It's
Understood. And now my other annoying sibling, here he is. It is Mark II, D2, Mark Ellis.
If you guys could just keep it together for one show. That'd be
Wet Willie.
Unbelievable. And our Pops is on the side there. There he is, Obi-Wan Kenobi. John Campbell.
I think you should have gone with cool older brother.
Oh,
What
boy.
is happening?
Oh, boy.
I think he was trying to take his belt off to whip us, not get really creepy.
No, I was going to walk through the show in my underwear. Just make everybody feel uncomfortable.
All right, guys.
Oh, boy.
We are in that kind of mood today on Collider Jedi Council. A lot of stuff actually happening this week in the world of Star Wars movie news. So without any further ado, Mark, what's up?
Oh boy, do we have a lot of news to get to this week, including Han Solo, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting his own movie. We already knew that, but we didn't know who was going to play Han Solo. And this week, as we were talking about on Movie Talk on Monday, there's been a lot of names that have been bandied about. Thousands and thousands of people have auditioned for this role, and it appears that we now have a short list that includes, but it's not limited to, Miles Teller, Ansel Elgort, Dave Franco, amongst other names. Kristian, you see those pictures right there.
Yeah.
Who amongst those? You also have your Scott Eastwood in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good-looking names. Which one do you think fits Han Solo the best?
If I can pick out of all these right here that we see,
Sure.
none of them. I don't like any.
Well.
I don't like any one of them. If I have to settle for some of them, I could settle for a Scott Eastwood or even Logan Lerman, although he looks really strange in that picture. But as far as that's all. My number one pick to this day is Taron Egerton. I still think they said 12, so that he's not in that picture. I still think he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
But the more and more I hear about this project, the more and more I'm saying maybe they should have done an Obi-Wan Kenobi anthology instead. I think this Han Solo movie is going to be tough to pull off. I hope I'm wrong. I think that the two people that are absolutely not right for this role are Miles Teller. I think he's a great actor. I just think that he's becoming that actor that people recognize him. He's a little bit more of a recognized. I think they need someone who's not as recognizable, and I think that Dave Franco is totally wrong for the role. But other than that, we'll see what happens. John, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, originally I said the two names on this list that came out that I would disqualify were Miles Teller and Dave Franco. Now, on Movie Talk, through a very passionate defense of Dave Franco, Schnepp convinced me to take him off my do not include this guy list. It's still not in my top. The two ones to me that I think are interesting are Scott Eastwood. I think he'd be interesting, and Logan Lerman. I really think this guy should have been Spider-Man, to be honest, at one point, but they went a little bit younger than him, so that's fine. I think he's a really talented dude. The bottom line for me on this is though, I have never liked the idea of these, let's go back to characters we already know, make prequel films about them. I don't like that. But that being said, the reality is Lord and Miller, at this point, after 4 films, have completely earned my trust. If they come out and cast Miles Teller, I'm not going to think it's a good move. But also in the back of my head, I'm going to be like, Lord and Miller will find a way to make this awesome.
Sure.
And by the end of it, we'll probably all be in on Miles Teller as Han Solo. So at this point, I don't say this often about movies and directors, but Lord and Miller are batting 1,000. Everything they've put out so far there has worked with their casting and everything. So I'm like you, exact same names. Eastwood, Lerman. But honestly, if they pick one of the other guys, I'm just going to probably go, then that's probably the right
What
pick.
about Taron Egerton? Do you think he has a shot? Because they said 12 people. They didn't give 12 names, though.
Yeah, I don't think he has a shot.
Okay.
But I am like you in the sense that if tomorrow they announce Taron Egerton as the new Han Solo, I'll go, yeah, that's a good choice.
Right.
He's not the top of my list like he is for you, but definitely he's one of those names that they say that name, I'm like, yep, that works.
Tiff?
I have said since seeing Kingsman that I was like, Taron, I think, would be amazing in the role. There's one specific line that he says at the end of the movie where it's like a dirty line, but you laugh and giggle just like you would as if it were Han Solo. And I think that's a quality that this character needs to have. Miles Teller for me is the most off. But I don't know, like you said, if they're casting him, if they've met with him, if he's done a good job in the audition room, then okay. The one that I think is the most interesting, though, Blake Jenner on the end from Glee.
Don't see
it's so interesting because we haven't heard anything from this kid since he was on Glee, really.
And good on that show?
He was good on the show. I mean, I don't think this character would be anything like that, but you look at, this is like a random connection, but he is married to Melissa Benoist, to Supergirl. And I'm like looking at her and her kind of arc from going from Glee to then doing Whiplash to now being Supergirl. I'm like, there could be something really interesting with this kid, and it would be exciting to see someone we don't know anything about. I am not opposed to Franco. I think that he has the comedy chops.
The influence of John Schnepp affects all.
What comedy chops?
Because here's the thing.
I'm gonna feel like he's doing like a character in like Neighbors 2, like he was doing for De Niro.
I don't think so at all, because I got to visit the set for Now You See Me 2 and talking with him and just like being around the kid. Off camera, he has this like calmness to him that I think Han Solo has as well, and then he'll throw in quips here and there, which I think works for the character. And
you could
no
see
one
him being
has
Adam Driver's dad. I can't.
I can't see any of this being Adam Driver's
so much
dad.
stuff
Like,
happened.
at this point, like I look at this
He's
list.
little.
You know, let me challenge you on this. Let me challenge you. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I got to challenge you on something
please.
here. You've been so hell-bent, dead set, locked in, laser-focused on Taron Egerton.
Yeah.
Who can you see outside? I'm just wondering. I wonder if your perception is being clouded.
No, because I told you,
is it Taron Egerton or bust?
No, not at all. Like I'm just telling you, like, and again, if Dave and I agree with you 100% that Lord and Miller right now, they've been. What have they done for me to say? You know, like if they cast Dave Franco, I'm still going to see the movie, and I'm still going to go in there going, okay, let's see what happens here. But it's not going to be my first choice. And I think that Miles Teller, I don't think is right for the role. What's his name?
Ansel Elgort.
Ansel Elgort. I think, possible. I don't know yet. I want to see what his audition was like. I don't think Dave Franco is right for the role. Again, I don't know all these guys' names still. Like the first goatee, I give him a maybe.
Young Chris Pratt wannabe.
Yeah, Scott Eastwood, I say has the look for sure. Whether or not he's got that kind of sarcasm, I don't know.
Have they said what age he's supposed to be though? Because
no,
Eastwood to me looks
didn't she
the
say,
oldest. And Miles
they want to put him
Teller
in
as well.
Rogue. Well, they want to put him in Rogue One. Is what the rumor is.
Yeah, and she said. I remember when Kennedy came out. She talked about it. She gave an age range. I can't remember what the exact, but I remember saying that's kind of a generous
Broad range.
Like, so they're giving themselves. And by the way, and I'm also against Miles, and Schnepp made me put Franco back on. But that's not to say I don't think Franco nor Miles Teller aren't exceptionally talented actors.
Yeah.
I do too.
Just a matter of fit, right?
I think
just don't see them as
it's
a fit.
not that I don't think that Dave Franco is good. I think everything he's been in, he's elevated the movies he's been in. I thought he was really good in Now You See Me. He's the farthest person I see even coming close to having that gravitas that.
But you
that
also
Solo
have to
had.
look at, like, when you look at Rebels, for instance, and you read A New Dawn, and you saw Kanan's character at a different perspective, different point in his life, different things he'd gone through, and then seeing Kanan now on Rebels, how much of a different character it is, where it's like, we don't know what's going to happen between us having this Han Solo prequel to how we know him now.
I'm
because
also
it's
talking
a lot
look,
of time.
though. But I mean, you don't have to do an impression of Harrison Ford. You don't. There's going to be
Because if that's the case, then it should be Jamie Costa.
or Jimmy or Anthony Gruber. But they did say that there's going to be some similarities to him. But I also think that the thing is that Han Solo, Harrison Ford, is 6'1". Okay. Now, a lot of times when you're casting people, height shouldn't count. Look at Tom Cruise, look at Stallone. But when it's off of a character that is already established as 6'1", and you cast a guy that is 5'6" or 5'7", it's because Chewie's going to look even taller.
I don't think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
I think that makes it easier for Chewie. Like now you
They'll
can
just
cast
hire
a shorter
him.
Chewie
Yeah.
if you want to. That's
true.
basically what we want is just somebody 6'6", not 7'2", to
Right.
play Chewbacca.
I'm in a minority because a lot of people out there were saying, give him a chance. Look, Twitter, I caught a beating on Twitter when I said I don't think that this dude should be it. Everyone's like, well, give him you think?
Franco?
Yeah, and they're like, you didn't what about Heath Ledger and Joker? Different circumstance.
You want to talk about catching a beating on Twitter this week? Hi, I'm Mark Ellis, and I'm going to tell you, I think Ansel Elgort is going to be the guy that plays Han Solo. Now, am I thrilled about that? No, I'm not thrilled about any of these names, nor am I thrilled about anybody else on planet Earth playing Han Solo. I just don't know how you do it right. I was hoping what was going to happen is that they would see thousands and thousands of people, and then a couple pictures would emerge, and we'd all be like, oh my God, I've never heard of this person, but that could be Han Solo.
Right.
That was not the case, or at least it's not the case yet. Blake Jenner is somebody who's a dark horse for me, too, because I saw some of his work after I initially thought it was Brody Jenner. And I was like, hell no.
Is that the guy from Brooklyn?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, no. That's somebody else.
Okay.
But this Jenner kid, I think that could be a wild card in there. It still could be somebody we haven't seen yet. And, watching A New Hope, we did the commentary for it on Collider this week. There's a couple of lines that Han Solo has that I could see Miles Teller pulling off well. I just don't like him for the look of Han Solo, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Can I throw out a name?
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. Now follow me.
As a hologram?
You give him a more trendy haircut, put some sneakers on him,
Right.
and he acts young. He'll talk with the cool hip language of that galactic age,
Right.
and just pass him off. Just say he's 21. Don't address anything else. Don't even darken his hair. Don't address
worst.
anything else.
Right, that's it.
Just say he's
That's
21.
not
The
how casting
worst.
works.
Do you know what I think
I
is
need a
interesting,
date.
though? Like, with all of this, at what other point in film history has it come out where they're like, here are the 12 guys we're looking at, and we actually get to talk about it? Because generally it ends up being maybe we get to see the final 3, but now it's at the point where I'm like, I want this on the behind the scenes. I want to see all these guys auditions. I want them all
It's
to come
true.
out.
I mean, that's been happening more and more, especially in the space that we're in, and with trying to catch the scoop and everything too. You always get those short lists because this list type thing was
Seems
happening.
like way more than a short list, though.
I don't know though. This type of list was
When
happening.
your first list is 100, 12 could be a
Right.
short
Remember
list.
when the Force Awakens rumors were coming out? Zac Efron was going in for a meeting, and so was going in for me. Everybody was getting. They're thinking about this guy and this guy. All the names that get put out there, and whether or not this is even the list, who the hell knows? All right, what's next?
Spoiler alert, Episode 8 will feature John Boyega waking up at some point. He's talking about the new movie, Episode 8, we don't know the title to, but we know that Vin is going to play a huge role in it, and he talked a little bit.
I swear I
heard
thought
it
you just said
said
Vin, and I was
I
like,
did
Vin
too.
Diesel's in
Vin
this
I
Diesel.
thought he
one?
said
Big
Vin
role.
also.
And we know from his Facebook page,
Yeah.
Vin Diesel
I
is
just
going
want
to
to
be
say
in
Fast
Episode
and
8.
Furious 8, Star Wars 8,
Right.
just saying.
Just as long as he's not playing a bald Han Solo, I'm fine with that.
a little lightsaber.
Finn will be returning in Episode 8, as we know, and John Boyega talked just a little bit about what we might expect to see, hinting that this was going to be a darker kind of movie, and also that he's in the gym because this one is going to be more physically taxing than the last one, which it should be noted he did have some fight scenes in. He used a lightsaber a couple times, and then he passed out for the last little bit. Kristian, you hear John Boyega talking a little bit about Episode 8. Does it feel like it might have that Empire vibe to you?
100%. We talked about this earlier this week on Movie Talk as well. You don't bring in Rian Johnson for Sunshine and Rainbows. You bring him on to paint a darker tone. I don't think anybody thought that Rian Johnson was going to do a light, fluffy movie. You knew it was going to be dark. If you've seen Rian Johnson's movies, whether it's Looper or Brick, the guy paints in a dark tone. And he's going to do it again here, and I'm glad that he is. And I also love the fact that Boyega's saying this about how he's geared. If you look at this, is why I am so against people who say, I've heard a couple arguments, oh, I didn't like what they did with Finn because he was just a clown, he was a buffoon. He was the farthest thing from it. The guy was a warrior. He gets into a TIE fighter with Poe. He gets a little nervous. He cracks a couple jokes, and then he fires and destroys the cannons. Then he's down. He picks up a gun. He fires. He hits his target. He grabs a lightsaber. He just stabs a stormtrooper right in the chest. The guy is a warrior. He goes after Kylo Ren with the saber. He is a warrior. He's going to learn that skills more, especially more now that he is part of the Resistance. And you're going to see the battle head to head. I think he's going to wind up fighting Phasma. I think that's going to be a big battle. I love this.
If she got out of the trash compactor.
Yeah.
right, Tiff.
Well, and I think it's interesting because even talking about how Rey fought in the first one, for all of the actors, I think there was something where they were still learning, and Finn as a character didn't really have a reason to fight. He was just Stormtrooper. That was it. And now it's like he actually has something he's fighting for, a reason to really learn to be a better, as you said, warrior, because that's what he's going to have to be. And so I like it when they do look at that in filming where, you think, okay, I don't want to train this actor too much because they're going to look too professional in the film. They need to kind of have an arc, not only just in how they're acting, but how their physicality is in the movie as well. So hearing that it's going to be a lot darker, obviously, I'm excited about that. I think it will be interesting to see his dynamic now because I think that I'm hoping they pull back a little bit more from all the one-liners that he did in the first one, because if you're talking about a darker movie, I'm like, I don't know how well that will fit quite as much.
I agree. Mark?
I love me some singers. I don't know why people were so down on his dialogue in Episode 7. I thought he was maybe the best part of the newcomers in that film. And I love Daisy Ridley. She was phenomenal. I can't wait to see where the character of Rey goes. But Finn's right up there, too. And John Boyega is such a great ambassador for Star Wars. And all the press tours, all the interviews, he celebrates the fact that he's in this movie to this day, and that's great for fans. It feels like one of us made it to the top and gets to be in that movie. So I love that he's going to have a big role. It appears in Episode 8. As far as it being a darker film, I think that's what we expected. Him being more physical, I think that's what we get too.
John?
Yeah, no surprises here. To me, Finn, and I thought from the trailers he would be a weak link that everything else would have to support. I came out, I've seen the movie 6 times now. He remains my favorite part of that movie. He's fun and funny and fantastic. A lot of people start speculating, do you think you're going to find out he has Force abilities later? Look, Star Wars, the great thing about the Star Wars universe, it is big and it is vast. It is not just about Skywalkers and it's not just about Jedis. It's about heroes and rogues, villains, and people discovering the inner hero within themselves as well. It's about so much more, and he falls into that. And I think he's going to play a big role in this next film. He was my favorite part of the last one. I anticipate he's going to be my favorite part in the next one. Don't know if he's making it out of the next one. I wonder, what is the Episode 8 Han gets taken away in Carbonite moment? I wonder what that's going to be for this one. But either way, whichever way it turns out, excited for it and love what he's saying.
And if you think he was pissed off when he was fighting that stormtrooper, imagine how upset he's going to be when he wakes up and he finds out he got friend zoned by Rey.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He's like, he
Did
saved
she
her.
kiss me before she left?
Right.
On the forehead.
Well, I think he's going to be okay, because I think that when we're hearing the casting rumors and stuff, they've been casting for a new
potential
girl,
love
for a
interest.
potential
Yeah,
I know. I think he's
love
going
interest.
right up to General Leia, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Cougar Town. All right, what's next?
We are talking directors. J.J. Abrams, who, of course, made Episode 7, and will stay on as a producer for the entire run of the new trilogy, and Colin Trevorrow, who is directing Episode 9, are talking a little bit about Rey's possible lineage. Now, J.J. Abrams, he's been through movies that have a lot of spoilers in them that he's never given away, and he continued that trend when he was interviewed and asked about Rey. He was very tight-lipped, noting that it is going to be Rian Johnson's responsibility to tell the tale from now on out, or at least for Episode 8. But then Colin Trevorrow gave away a little bit more news when he said that the Colin Trevorrow's movie is not going to be giving away a lot of new characters. He's going to be working, for the majority, with characters that have already been created. Now, that makes a lot of sense because he's doing Episode 9. Return of the Jedi, we didn't meet a whole lot of new characters. In 1983, we already knew new people from A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Kristian, you hear this take. Do you think that now it's confirmed that we already know who Rey's pappy is?
Confirmed that we know? No. Confirmed that they know? Yes. I also think confirmed that that John and I will stop arguing about this after Episode 8 comes out. I think they're gonna reveal this in Episode 8, who she is, whether or not she's Luke's kid or not. I think that the conversation on Jedi Council will stop and one of us will know. I don't think it's going to happen all the way into Episode 9, because I think you're going to start to piss off fans a little bit too if you start to go, hey, who's she? Because at this point it's silly. Let us know. It's a question you don't want on the table, because I think it'll help tell the story. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think that it's nice to see. What I also love, and I didn't realize this because I had thought originally when they said Rian Johnson was going to direct 8 and 9 is what they originally said. And they're like, no. He's only writing 8, and then he's going to maybe write 9. Now it's apparently confirmed that he's writing 8 and 9. I didn't realize that. That makes me...
But only directing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Directing 8, writing 8 and 9, and I am thrilled about that, because I think I would like to see what Colin Trevorrow does with Rian Johnson's script. So I'm okay with that the whole way this is going down, and I think that we are going to find a clear definition of exactly who Rey is. John, what do you think?
We're not finding out who Rey is
In 8?
until 9.
We're going to have another bet here on the table,
We're
man.
not finding out who Rey is until 9. So I'll just let you know that right now.
All right.
Well, my job's cut out for me.
And
Separating
a
you
lot
two.
of what they have been saying is confirming that for me, that we're not gonna find that out until Episode 9. But look, I think the way they're setting this up is the correct way to set it up. I love that each film is going to have a different person at the helm. You set up your continuity, you stick with it, you set your tone, but now you put a different person in that director's chair to give each film a little bit of unique flavor. You know, George Lucas ultimately was obviously the one in total control of the original Star Wars trilogy, but each film felt...
Not Empire.
Yeah, not as much Empire,
Yeah.
because he had somebody he deeply respected
Yep.
and adored there. So, but each film did have its own little unique taste because it was a different person in the director's chair. I like that they're doing it here. I don't think it would have turned out... Look, I would have been fine if they said JJ was doing 8 and 9 as well. I would have been fine with it. But I think this is the best way to go. And everything they're talking about now, just kind of confirms that for me.
Mark?
I love the roster of directors that's working on the new trilogy and the order that it's happening. Rian Johnson's the right guy for 8. Trevorrow's the right guy for 9. And I want to talk about Guns N' Roses playing Coachella for a minute here, because you hear that's going to happen. Then you hear episode 8. Okay, what's Guns N' Roses going to play in the first third of their set? You know you're getting Welcome to the Jungle. You know you're getting a big thing that you really need early on. That's what you're getting in episode 8. You're going to find out who Rey is related to early on. She's training with Luke. She's been training with Luke for a little bit. That's when you're going to hear about that. Now, Jedi Council fans have been great at listening to us week to week make these predictions and then being forgiving when we want to change them. I could change my tune. I don't think so, though. I think you're finding out Rey's lineage in episode 8 early on.
Tiffany, tell me I'm right.
Don't know. I actually think we're going to find out in 9 as well, because if it's okay, first one, we find out who Kylo Ren's parents are.
Right.
Second one, we find out who Rey's parents are. Third one, we find out who someone else Finn's parents are. I'm like, then it becomes this like, let's repeat every story over and over again about finding out whose parents are whose. And that to me seems kind of wah. Like,
but don't you think if it's Luke's daughter though, like you have to like if he's.
And by the way, it's not Luke's daughter.
I don't think it's Luke's daughter.
If you don't,
I
then
don't
all right.
think
If you
it's
don't,
Luke's
then
daughter.
okay.
I don't think it's Luke's daughter.
But I think there's a very good chance you could be right.
So
by the way,
but I'm saying if it is his daughter though, it's going to be. If it isn't, I agree with you guys that it could stretch into 9 maybe. If it is his daughter, it's going to be weird if they're training on the island the entire time and there's never a reference to it, unless he's hiding it and doesn't want to tell her yet, and then eventually, oh, by the way, I am your father.
No,
like,
I see.
That's
Let's
what I don't think is going to happen.
Let's assume for a second that you're right, and I don't think she's his daughter, but I think there's a chance that she is. Let's say that that's the case. What we have learned from these older Jedi, Yoda, be it Yoda or Obi-Wan, is that they are very selective and very careful in their timing about what they reveal and when they reveal it. Like, if you look at a television show right now, say The Blacklist, which is a show that I watch and follow, they've gone 3, not episodes, seasons, not with this dangling question, is Red her father? And they've been dangling that question for 60 some odd episodes, right? And I think if you take that in consideration, and they've been doing it well, and it doesn't feel annoying at all. It just feels like it's drawing.
That's weekly.
It's weekly, but still 60 some odd episodes. So now you take that into something like a couple of movies, understanding that Obi-Wan, Yoda have been very selective and coy about what they reveal and when. And I think that reveal, be it she is his daughter or that she is somebody else's daughter, that feels like a third act reveal to me.
But here's why I go against that. It's because in The Force Awakens, you see, there's at least 2 or 3 times in The Force Awakens when you can clearly tell characters are about to talk about Rey. Who's the girl? Maz Kanata asks Han Solo. Then they cut away. And then another time later in the movie, then they cut away right before you hear something more intuitive about who she is. You can't get away with doing that 2 movies in a row. You simply can't do that for 2 more hours. They know it would be a disservice to Star Wars fans who are talking about this.
But in a normal conversation, you wouldn't be like, every time someone came in the picture, you wouldn't be like, who's her parents? Who are her parents?
You will right now because everyone's talking about
it. But I'm saying in a normal conversation, like we are, because we want to analyze the films and we're like, what's the story here? But I also think you just look at the conversation Maz had with her and was like, the people you're waiting for, you know they're not coming back. Look to the future. So to me, I'm like, that means it's not Luke, because if she's saying look to the future, go to Luke.
Or her mother.
She said, well, yeah,
so many
maybe.
possibilities.
I don't know. I just feel like it would be so the same story again, which everyone not everyone, some people got up in arms about the fact that it was rehashing the same story in episode 7. And I'm like, so if that happens again, and now it's just Rey's story. But I do think it's really interesting thinking if Luke is, which I don't think he is, her dad, that he's waiting for the right time to tell her. Because if he is going to train her and he tells her from the beginning, what's that reaction? Does she get angry and doesn't want to let him train her? Does he not want to train her because he's worried he's going to mess her up as a Jedi? Who knows?
Yeah. All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, no one cares who Rian Johnson or Carmen Trevorrow are related to, but we do care that they're working together and working together well, and that's one of the things on the next story is that Colin Trevorrow was speaking about how him and Rian Johnson have a great working relationship. They're very close in working on the script and the story for both episode 8 and continuing into episode 9. And then Trevorrow was also asked about this petition, this fan petition, to bring George Lucas back into the mix, and he handled it very diplomatically. He kind of giggled and said, George is great, and then praised George Lucas and went on. So, Kristian, obviously I think we agree it's the right way to handle a question like that, but also it's great news knowing that these directors are working so closely together.
This is the thing with George Lucas. As much as I think that he's got to be quiet with a lot of the silly things he's been saying lately, every silly thing he says anyone who follows him has to pay the utmost respect to him, no matter what he says. So, and he hasn't said anything at all. This story is just a petition, but I'm saying you have to give him a lot of respect forever, because we don't have the show without George Lucas. We just don't. I don't care all the nonsense that he's been talking lately. Now, as far as this petition goes, the petition is utter silliness. It's like, it's the same. It just gets me so upset, and so it's so stupid. It's the same people who, when a movie's really popular, whether it be Avatar or Gravity, a bunch of people come out of the woodwork and they start going, you know what? No, I've seen Force Awakens 5 times, but it stinks. Well, why'd you see it 5 times? Just because you wanted to complain about it. Now you're complaining about it. Now, I want George Lucas back. Do you really? Yes, because Colin Trevorrow did Jurassic World and he doesn't. Shave your head and go to sleep.
What are you saying?
And
I gotta admit, I've never heard that one before.
Shave your head and go to sleep.
Because whatever's the magical Samson hair is not working. Go to sleep. Now I think that what we should do here is talking about Trevorrow working with Rian Johnson, because that's the real story. The real story is these guys, what we just talked about in the last story here. This has been an collaboration. J.J. Abrams has talked about this. Like when he was working on 7, he was talking to Johnson about 8, and Johnson was allowed to do certain things and other things he wasn't. And now Johnson will be talking to Trevorrow. I love this trio. I love the collaboration. I think it's a good thing.
I think that it shows that they have a lot of respect for each other as directors, because I think JJ was saying when he was talking about Rey's parentage that he was like, I'm not going to reveal that stuff. I'm leaving it for the next one because I'm not taking the reveals that I got to do for The Force Awakens, which I really like. I think it's hard because, George has said some kooky things of late. And so I'm sure within the 3 of them having these other directors chatting, they're like, what is he doing? But if any of them came out and said anything against George, fans would be so up in arms and we would turn on them. So it's like, it's the best response he could have given. I think it's sweet, and it's probably a bit of an ego stroke for George to see that fans are still excited about him potentially being a part of something. And we've talked about this. I think it would be really cool if George took a TV series or something separate than the film franchise working on Star Wars again. I would be totally on board for that.
John?
I look in the grander context of things. I don't think George has said anything that kooky. I think he said things that were poorly worded that you can then take and twist and whatever. He's never come out and said, I don't think JJ did a good job. He's never said anything like that. And of course, you have to pay not just respect, you have to pay homage to George Lucas. Those $1 million paychecks you're cashing right now is because of George Lucas. I still worship at the altar of George Lucas, and all the prequels notwithstanding, like all that kind of stuff is true. Now, getting that whole thing about this petition, all right? First of all, signing petitions about movies is an exercise in idiocy to begin with, okay? Now, on to the specific situation of people signing petitions because they want to kick out Colin Trevorrow, who, by the way, took an old limping franchise that once had a great glory day and brought it back to fans that fans loved, enjoyed, and flocked out to and had huge financial success. Sound like another property by any stretch of the imagination? That you want to replace that guy with George Lucas, the director of the prequels. You are, I'll say, I just want to make sure this is really good and clear here. So,
he's standing up.
You're an idiot! You're an idiot. If you want, no, that is the I love George. Everybody knows how much passion I have for George Lucas, but that is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Stupid.
Bring George Lucas back at this point. No, there's a reason he moved on. Let him move on and do the other things he wants to do. Let Trevorrow do this thing with Johnson's script. This is the best scenario.
Also, when it comes to films, it's like people are like, oh, we don't want to see the same things over and over and over and over again. Give new people a chance. And then it's like, we're giving new directors that have helmed big projects a chance again. And it's like, no, we want to go back to George.
Well,
and you're like, but like, I can't imagine being, especially like Trevorrow at this point, where it's like seeing how great The Force Awakens did and what JJ did with it and being like, oh my God. Like, I'm going to have to do something insane with this movie. And then having fans be like, we want George back before you even done anything. Like, that sucks.
Look, the petition's cute. It keeps the kids off the street for a little bit. Rian Johnson and Trevorrow working as closely together as they are reminds me of an Olympic relay team where when you're watching on TV, it just looks like they're handing each other the baton. But every move that each one of those guys does is so calculated and meticulously crafted to sync up perfectly. That's what they're doing. And I think it helps both those guys just as far as alleviating some of the pressure. It's like if you were tasked with writing this huge movie by yourself, that's one thing. But now if you and I guy and all of us can collaborate on something, it just, your shoulders feel a little bit lighter. Oh, finally, I have somebody else I can talk about with this, and I don't have to worry about, oh, Tiffany, don't go telling anybody this.
Yeah.
Like, you can sit in a room and talk about all these spoilers and really throw them and hear them and play back and forth with them. Because, look, maybe they don't know who Rey's father is. Maybe they had to sit in a room and knock that idea back and forth. It's a lot easier to do that with a group of people than it is just you with a notepad by yourself sitting by a creek, which is how George Lucas wrote the majority of the prequels.
All right, what's next?
Next up, we are talking about Benicia Del Toro and the role that he might be playing in Episode 8. Now, look, in an interview last year, he might have let slip that he's probably playing a villain, okay?
Definitely let it slip. Yeah.
So in a more recent interview, he played much more coy. They're like, hey, what are you working on? He's like, I'm flying to England to shoot something later.
Yeah.
In the
Space movie.
And then he went on to say that he's very excited to work with Rian Johnson, that Rian Johnson's recruitment is what got Del Toro involved in being in Episode 8 in any capacity. And then they asked about him being a villain, and he just kind of smirked and said, look, that's what's out there right now, and I'm not going to try to fight it. So playing coy, but also we have no idea who he's playing in this movie. Right, Kristian?
I don't have any idea. I mean, who I hope he plays, I still am holding out hope that he plays Thrawn. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think he's going to. I'd be okay if he plays a bounty hunter. I'd be okay if he played anything. And the same reason going back on the I love Rian Johnson train is the same reason he does. He wants to be associated with a movie that Rian Johnson is doing, and I want to see a Star Wars movie that Rian Johnson is doing with Benicia Del Toro in it. That to me sounds exciting. I don't, I kind of don't. I love him when he interviews, because he's like he said, it's out there. I'm not going to lie and try to cover it up. He's that kind of guy, and that's also why you cast him in movies like this. But it's also just like you could see the conversations, like, Benicia's doing another interview. You see that. But Tiff, what do you think?
I think I totally agree with him. I like the fact that he's like, I'm not going to try and backpedal and like pretend that that's not already out there, because it is. I said it. He's not confirming again. He's not being like, yep, I'm a villain, but he's also not thinking that the fans are idiots, saying, I didn't mean to say that. And then we see the movie and he is a villain, and we're all like, but you said you weren't going to be a villain. Yeah. I love Benicio Del Toro. I think that everything he does is so layered and interesting and fun and quirky, depending whether it's a good guy or a dark character. So even if it's a small role, I hope it's more than what we've gotten in the Marvel films with him so far. I hope it's not that small of a role in the film. But the fact that he is talking about it more, I think that there's a lot more to this character than maybe we even think at this point.
Mark?
I just want to see this guy in a Star Wars movie in general. I don't really care who he's playing. If I had money to bet, which I don't, I would put it on Benicio Del Toro being a bad guy in this movie, and not just like Captain Phasma's dad, like somebody crucial who is actually going to be playing a role not only in 8, but also in 9 going forward.
John?
Well, speaking of Marvel, we just found out, he just confirmed that he's not going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Aww.
So he's going to play Tannelir Tavan. He's going to play the Collector in Star Wars Episode 8. He's going to kidnap Chewbacca to add to his collection. He has no Wookiees. Now he's going to play a villain. Come on, he's going to play a villain. He's going to be badass at it. He's going to be awesome at it. And he's going to be great.
You think? What would you say out of the two possibilities of either bounty hunter or Thrawn?
If those were my only two options?
Yeah.
Okay, I would go option number 3, which is neither. But if I had to only pick 2, likelihood or what I would want?
Well, I know we all want Thrawn.
What you'd
We
want.
all want Thrawn.
Yeah.
Honestly, since I really don't think he's going to be a bounty hunter,
What do you think? What do you think he would be then? What do you see?
I'm really not
Imperial?
sure. I think maybe an Imperial of some. That's why I even think probably more likely is Thrawn.
Yeah.
Because I do think he's going to be, look, General Hux is great, but this is the Imperial. This is the First Order Navy we're talking about. So there's an admiral over that General Hux dude, and I think maybe he could be it.
As great as he was in Sicario, I just don't see him as another bounty hunter-like character like that. I just see him as being somebody who is integral, who is employed by the First Order, as opposed to somebody who's just looking to make the most money somewhere.
I just want to see it. I wouldn't be opposed to him being a bounty hunter just because, like, we haven't had a really cool bounty hunter in the Star Wars world in a long time.
were gonna get
What if
some in
he's
Rogue
related
One.
to Poe in some way?
That's true. Rogue One's a good call. Maybe.
Like he could be, I don't know
don't know.
what kind of character. Also, you talk about him being Imperial. I'm like, I want to see him in a robe. I want to see him with the hood up.
Maybe look,
he would look
first scene
so.
is coming out of the
I
shower.
want him to be. I don't mean like a comfy robe. I mean like a Jedi or like a Sith robe.
But
Like,
what if he's a Knight of Ren?
yeah, that would be
He could
awesome.
be a Knight of Ren also.
That would kind of be weird. That
Why?
Kylo would be the master of the Knights of Ren if you got Benicio Del Toro there.
Maybe, but maybe not. Who knows?
True,
He runs
true.
the
Lots of
Outer Rim
possibilities.
Territories bunny ranch. He's just in a smoker's jacket all day.
Come on in. Flip it. Flip it for real.
I love that vision.
All right, Mark, what's next?
We have an update. Wow, maybe sort of. The casting for a new female lead in Episode 8 has taken an interesting twist. Back in October, it was reported that Gugu and Batu Raw had the role of whatever female they were looking to cast. Obviously, we don't have details about who that character might be, but now Jeff Snyder from The Wrap, appearing on his weekly Meet the Movie Press, said that that is not the case. She does not have the role yet, and that there's some other contenders for that part, one of whom is Belle Powley, and the other one is Gina Rodriguez. So, Kristian, we don't know which one is a front runner. It appears that Powley might have a slight edge, but you hear that we thought we had this locked up, and now all of a sudden, game on.
It's funny. It's like the Oscar race at this point. Like we were talking about today. Who do you think will win? Who should win? I'll tell you what. Gina Rodriguez keeps getting thrown in the mix for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
you keep hearing her for
a lot of
And can we talk about the fact that she was at the Force Awakens
Yes,
premiere?
she was. So Rogue One, she was thrown in there. Episode 7, her name keeps getting thrown in there. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets cast. But then you look at Daisy Ridley's Instagram, and she's championing Belle Powley here, and how much influence Daisy Ridley has, who knows? But either one of these two, any one of the names on the list so far that we've heard rumored, I'd be happy with all these girls, if not all of them. But John, what do you think?
Well, I mean, like Gina Rodriguez being at the premiere, so is that that could go two ways? Is that this rumor keeps coming up because Gina Rodriguez is at the premiere, or is it Gina Rodriguez is at the premiere because she's really being looked at? I tend to think she's actually being looked at. She is a hot name right now. She's got a lot of projects already lined up, and I already know there's actually a whole bunch of directors that are trying to get her in their projects. She's not going out and auditioning for a lot right now. She's being courted for a lot of projects right now. The one thing she would probably go out and ask for, though, is Star Wars, because I know she's a big Star Wars fan since she was a kid, and she's a loaded talent, man. She is a loaded talent. So nothing against any of the other names we've heard bandied about. I'm sure they're all
Your
great.
bet's on Gina.
My bet is on Gina Rodriguez.
But we also don't know if it's just going to be one of them. Like they have
There could be
the
multiple.
lead that
That's
it's like
what
a
I'm
couple
saying.
of these
It
girls
could be a
could be in
few.
it. And I think what Daisy's been posting makes it seem like they've spent some time together.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like she's trying to champion this girl
No,
to get the role, but
What-
it's like
what I'm saying
they
is
may
that they
have
have a
read
relationship.
together. They may, you never
Yeah.
know. And with Gina, I think that it's interesting because the rumors were around before the premiere that she was being looked at, and so I know that for a lot of people that work in the Star Wars world, it was like everyone didn't get an invite to that premiere if they were on the talent side of things. So to me, I'm like, okay, they're definitely looking at her, and that's why she's at the premiere, just to kind of get another vibe and meet and mingle and chat with people more. And the other interesting thing about her is that her dad was a professional boxer, and so she's been boxing since she was young, so she has this like physicality that she could totally use in this role too, depending on what it is.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like when a college is trying to recruit an athlete, and they bring him to, and like the premiere was like showing around the college and stuff, and
This could
Right.
be you.
Yeah.
What do you
Look
think
at
your
him.
face would look like on that
Right.
poster up there?
But if that's the case, I mean, I was at the premiere. Let me do an audition for the Han Solo. Hey, I'm Han Solo,
No,
Captain
you
Lenny
already got
Falcon.
cast.
Yeah,
You're already in
look,
it.
she was at the premiere. That's great. Belle Powley is on Daisy Ridley's Instagram. Phenomenal. I don't know enough about these actresses. I
Yeah.
haven't seen their audition tapes. It seems like it's pretty neck and neck, though. And what definitely appears to be, anyway, so I won't say definitely, is that Gugu and Batu Raw is no longer in the running at all.
Well, we don't know if that's the case.
You know?
Just from this story, it kind
that's what
Right.
what Snyder is guessing at.
right.
So
All right, what's next?
next up is, are we talking Jabba the Hutt yet? No, we're talking George Lucas. Had his original plans for Luke Skywalker and the new trilogy. Now, this came out this week, too, is that George Lucas was working on stuff. He had ideas. He had stories. One of them was his initial plan for how Luke Skywalker was going to be treated in the new sequel. And, you know, the 1983 piece, it's very light on content, but it gets interesting that there was a vision that Lucas had for Luke Skywalker's future, Kristian.
Yeah, part of that was him having a daughter.
I know. Yeah.
I'm just saying, and I think that what Michael Arndt did, when he wrote the first draft of this script, was take a lot of the ideas that George Lucas had with the twins and everything too, and Kasdan and JJ switched it up. This is why, again, I think that it's going to happen. A lot of people don't realize that George Lucas was always talking about the family, the Skywalker family, the traditions, the kids, all of that stuff. And I also think that even when Timothy Zahn wrote the Thrawn trilogy, he talked to George Lucas or had input from George Lucas of where that would go, and some of his ideas of having all these children and spawns came from George Lucas's vision. So I just think it adds in. You disagree? Why?
Well,
You can walk back up to the camera.
his bored look. His
I
bored
mean,
face on.
it's a classic situation where we could take the 50 points that we know about George Lucas's original idea, and you want to ignore the 49 that they threw away and just say, "Oh, that one was in there. I'm sure they'll follow that one, though." I mean, come on. Yeah, here's the other thing that gets me about this whole thing about that too is that one of the things that George was very, I believe that he was going in the direction of going back to what his vision was, is that George actually believed in the Jedi vision or the Jedi rule about the no attachments. And what happened is the story of Anakin Skywalker became the cautionary tale of what happens when you break that rule. Ultimately, Anakin, turned to the dark side, cut off Mace Windu's hand and all that, and submitted himself to the Emperor just because he thought he had a chance to save Padme. And that, that gives you that flashback to that scene when Obi-Wan and Anakin are in the shuttle, Padme falls out, and Anakin wanted to go off mission. He's, "No, we stop, land, and get her." And Obi-Wan's like, "No, you stay on mission." Ultimately, we see Anakin fall to that. I don't know why everybody thinks are so quick to think that Luke Skywalker would just disregard the lesson of Anakin Skywalker.
First of all, he was never taught that because Obi-Wan never
would've
said.
learned.
Obi-Wan never said, "Hey, by the way, if you want to be a Jedi, you can't get."
But he would have
anymore."
learned. He would have learned.
But you
Anymore.
also look at the
That dude was a
relationship
virgin,
between the Skywalkers, where it's Leia and Luke, and the fact that they are siblings and they are related and they do have a connection, and that ends up saving him at points in the film. So there is that opposite side to the coin as well, where it's like finding the right balance to the Force and to relationships as well.
Because when he wanted to go save Leia, I mean, to counter my own point,
Yeah.
when Luke wanted to go save Leia and Han, emotional attachments, what did Yoda say? "No, don't go. You have to stay focused. Fine, if you're going to go, mind your training, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Blah, blah. So, yeah, there's that to consider, too.
Okay, look, but by the time in between Empire and Jedi, there was no chance Luke was getting laid by anybody. The only shot he has, and it definitely wasn't happening on Tatooine, right? When he's going to pick up power converters.
Not with that whiny voice.
Yeah, the only window he has is after the end of A New Hope, before Empire starts, and they have all these comic books about that. Is he romancing anybody in those?
Yeah, he is actually.
Is he really?
In that movie, Heir to the Jedi,
In that book.
In that book,
Yeah.
he's looking.
He's romancing.
Yeah, he's not. He's paying
Wow.
no attention
A little
to that.
smooching.
Well, good for him. And if all you guys out there, if you want to see this interview we're talking about, it was a piece that was done by the late, great Gene Siskel, and you can find it. The way that I was reading it is from our buddies over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. They have a lot of great sites on there. They have a lot of great aggregators of stories. They break some scoops as well. So you can check out what George Lucas had to say around the time of Return of the Jedi right there.
All right, what's next?
Speaking of Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt might be back in a movie at some point. Some of the visual effects guys who've worked on Star Wars before, they were talking about what creatures from the original trilogy might be coming back, and one of them opened his mouth, and out came the frog eater himself, the biggest fan the Rancor ever had, Jabba the Hutt. Kristian, which movie do you think we're going to see Jabba the Hutt? I'm going to throw a couple options at you.
Yeah.
Do we see him in a cameo in Rogue One? Do we see him maybe in Episode 8, a flashback? Or do we see him in the Han Solo picture starring Dave Franco?
Oh, shooter. Someone's in that article that had said Episode 8. I'm like, how? That makes no sense. Rogue One's certainly a possibility, but what makes the most sense? The Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. It's like you're going to see, I mean, if they're sticking to what's canon, if the special edition movies, at some point they got to confirm whether or not the special editions, I would assume they're the ones that are canon.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that scene with Han and Jabba in Episode 4, they seem to have a kind of a playful relationship. And he sends him on jobs and he does stuff. So he's not going to be that kind of evil force with Han. He's going to be a force that sends Han out to do jobs. He's going to be his employer. So I think we're going to see him. What do you think?
If you ask me, when we all watched the special editions and did the commentary this week, my takeaway from that scene, which I'm a fan of watching, I don't know that I need it to be canon. I like watching it, though, because it's something new. And it does give you a window into how their relationship was and how maybe this was the impetus for that relationship going south. Because it does seem at the beginning, Han and Jabba, they did have some sort of working relationship. That was the day that all that stuff got broken, and Jabba's like, screw it, freeze this guy, I need a new decoration. So I think it's interesting. If you're gonna try to shoehorn a new Han Solo into some part of Rogue One, perhaps he's hanging out with Jabba the Hutt.
Well, I think you always kind of look at those relationships where it's like the head boss of a gang and the guy who's bringing him money. If Han was consistently bringing him money that whole time, they're going to have a great relationship.
Right.
As soon as he turns on him, Jabba's like, yeah, peace out. I'm going to treat you just like I treat all
He's a
the other
gangster.
ones that
Yeah,
aren't
he's a
making me
monster.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it would be in the Han Solo prequel that we'd see.
And one of the lines that he says in that scene, he says, "Han, my boy, you're the best."
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's obviously part of that too. I was gonna say, don't completely discount that maybe he's still alive. Like we saw Leia choke him out, but
The ship blew up.
Then I
Yeah.
remembered myself. But then the ship blew up. Is it wrong of me too that when you say Jabba the Hutt, my first reaction is to go la 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 la, like oh my god,
It's wrong for you to
painful.
look me in the eye and do that.
Yeah.
You don't like that? You don't
I'm not a huge fan.
Han Solo is the logical choice, but from what we know about Rogue One, the involvement of Jabba the Hutt, of having to get involved maybe with some back channel gangsters and stuff like that, it's not far-fetched to think we
not.
could
You
see
need
Jabba in Rogue
funding. You
One.
need
Yep,
dough
exactly.
to pull off a Death Star plan like that.
It would be an incredible scene if whether Felicity Jones and her crew was like, we need to get more information. We don't know where they're going. And it's almost like the reveal of the Falcon. They show up to Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great scene. It's a great reveal. And if he shows up for like one scene and he's talking, that great. I want to see the Jabba that we saw in Jedi. I don't want to see. I don't want to see the CGI Jabba from.
I
the
don't want
prequels.
him slithering all around.
No, I want build. I mean, it seems like it from this interview. So build out Jabba, and I'm down for whether it's Rogue One or Han Solo. All right. What's next?
Well, we here at Jedi Council are always trolling Amazon.com, and it appears we might get a Blu-ray of The Force Awakens. June 30th is the preliminary listing of that. And Tiffany, you might want to stop clapping now because while we get to see the movie that we all have come to love, we're not going to get to see an extended cut of that film. That from the mouth of J.J. Abrams, the director himself, saying there will be no extended cut on Blu-ray, which is obviously a little bit of a bummer for people like us who want to see a few more scenes. He was asked what the original cut of the film they had was, and he said that if he had to guess, it would probably be just under 3 hours, around 2 hours, 50 minutes with the credits included. So, Kristian, what are you doing June 30th?
Well, I understand the extended cut not coming out, and that's the thing that's what happens when you get into this whole canon thing. Because when you're dealing with an extended cut, then it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, let's say they put an extended cut of something that didn't make it into the movie or wasn't even in the book. Then you start doing the John Campia, you're smelling the multiple levels because
Multiple levels of canon.
you'll smell because if you do that, it becomes very confusing for the fans if you put out like that director's cut or that extended cut. But if you put the deleted scenes out there, that's okay to do, and I think that's the move. But Tiff?
Well, and isn't that what he said? I thought JJ came out and said there's going to be extra scenes. It's just not going to be
Recut
within
into the
the
movie.
film.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So that to me is exciting. Cool. We'll get to see it. That doesn't mean it's necessarily canon if it's just a deleted
just
scene.
deleted scene.
I'm happier that they're saying this. I don't want to then have this Blu-ray come out and then 2 months later then be like special edition extended version. Like that
They
to
will.
me, I feel like. But do you think they're going to do that after he's saying
they
we're
won't
not
put a
doing
cut.
it?
No,
Like
no,
I
no,
think
but
that there is.
but there'll be a double disc, all that stuff.
There'll be more. Maybe they'll release more behind the scenes
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's what
but
I mean.
I don't want to see. I just feel like it's a cash grab when it's like we're going to put out the film version, then we're going to say we're not putting out extended, and then later we're going to put out extended. So
I'm sorry. You know what I would love though is that I would love, and look, I'm still working with Sega CD, so I'm not sure if all Blu-rays can do this. Is if you buy a Blu-ray, right, of Jurassic World and it's got some deleted scenes, is there a way that I can watch the movie in a linear fashion?
No.
With those deleted scenes in there?
No.
Because that'd be pretty sweet.
Not-
Somebody
not-
on YouTube is going to do that.
Not unless
but-
there is a cut. What J.J. Abrams said there is not.
Yeah.
If there's that cut that's on the
Right.
Blu-ray, sometimes they'll put the theatrical version, and then sometimes they'll put like the special
Yep.
version
Yeah.
on it. If there is indeed
I
one.
think it's
but
called
this-
version with deleted scenes. We know it's not canon. We trust you.
Like, keep this in mind too when talking about could they release this later. Just remember this: J.J. Abrams is not in charge of Lucasfilm.
Right.
And if at some point Iger and Horn and John Lasseter and they all get together and think, you know what, we think we can make another $175 million if we do put out another copy of this disc and we incorporate all the deleted scenes and we have a new cut. They're going to go ahead and do that, and it doesn't matter how much J.J. Abrams objects. As far as the deleted scenes themselves go, we were talking about this before the show started. As was reported on Collider.com earlier today, as a matter of fact, I believe Steve Weintraub had a chance to sit down with some of the effects people, and they revealed one of the scenes that they did shoot and they took out, and it fundamentally changes our understanding of one of the characters in that scene. It's in Maz Kanata's palace, down in that tunnel down there. This is after Rey has left, and Maz is down there with Han and Finn. The stormtroopers come in. And Maz tells him to get going, and then she uses the Force to bring down the ceiling to block off the stormtroopers. total change of
Yeah.
perception of a character. And so it brings up the question. Then, okay, that's a deleted scene. They shot that. It was in the shooting script.
Well,
Is that canon?
And that came out, by the way. And the thing was, that's why they made the emphasis on when Maz Kanata tells Rey, she's like, I'm not a Jedi, but
I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it's a visual dictionary or where that's from, but it was, wherever I read, it was she knows the Force. She's been around for 1,000 years. That's how she knows as much as she does, and she knows how to use it.
Was that seen in the novelization?
I don't know. No, I don't think it was.
So.
I don't think it was.
But I think it brings up two things. One, her saying, if that is the case, her knowing the Force, then that's the question where everyone's like, then how does he use the lightsaber? And she says to him, you already have a weapon,
Right.
because maybe she knows that he knows the Force as well. The other thing that I think could be interesting is with all these deleted scenes, if all 3 films come out, then later after that, like what they did with Lord of the Rings, where it's like, then you have the extended, because as you're saying, if there are certain scenes that reveal stuff that they're like, we actually decided we're going to hold off until episode 8 for that. And we're going to hold off revealing this until episode 9 to make it have that much more of an impact. That I think once all 3 of them come out, then I would be like, yes, let's see these
That is a
extended
great way of
editions.
thinking
That
of
would
it.
be
Yeah.
really cool.
All right, what's next?
Star Wars has already made enough change to make Scrooge McDuck jealous, and now it's got some award nominations, Kristian. It came out this week that the Cinema Audio Society Awards gave Star Wars a number of nominations, as did the Visual Effects Society Awards. And then, as we learned earlier today, Star Wars The Force Awakens was also nominated for a few Academy Awards, including Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Design, all thanks to the great TIE Fighter screech. You're pretty excited about this,
I mean,
right?
yeah, I'm super excited. I think that it was, I don't know if I'd be cocky enough to say it was a given, but I think that for as far as visual and sound, I expected it to get nominated. especially for the
score.
Oscar. And score. Score was the one that surprised me.
Really?
Yeah, that it got nominated. I mean, I get that it was it's John Williams, so
Yeah.
we're going to nominate John Williams, but and I said it, well, first time, if you go back and watch some of our older episodes when we first saw the movie, I said the score was good. It's really grown on me the more and
Man.
more I've seen it. The first time I was like, it didn't really stick to me. Dennis and I had a
love the
conversation
score.
about
Yeah.
the first time. We're
Love
like,
the
it
score.
wasn't as powerful as it, and then the more every time you see it,
Dude.
the Kylo Ren theme, Rey's theme, like every
The shot where Rey's coming down the hill in
That's
the
my favorite.
sand,
That's my favorite. Yeah.
The first time I saw it, it was like,
Yeah. It's
like,
it's great.
As soon as the
So-
movie opens and the crawl text is done and you just hear the news score when you see those ships come out that are holding the stormtroopers, I was like, this is the John Williams I was hoping
Yeah.
I was getting. I'm not a huge fan of any of the prequel soundtracks. I'm really not.
Really?
I don't think I just don't. I think he was a little off his game. Duel of Fates is cool. There's just not that many memorable moments here. This score was great.
All right, John.
For actual grand total, Star Wars was actually nominated for 5 Academy Awards this year, which is a nice little number, and some significant ones too. Sound mixing, sound editing, visual effects, score, and editing.
Wow.
It got that was the one that surprised me. A very pleasant surprise. I was
Yeah,
kind
me
of
too.
nominated. Got a nomination for editing, which is really cool. So that's a nice haul of nominations.
Think it'll
for
win
it.
anything?
I think it honestly, when I was looking down the list, I honestly think it has a very solid chance for sound mixing.
Sound mixing.
The sound in Star Wars
TIE fighter
is
stuff, man.
all of
so
it was mixed so perfectly. Like a lot of movies, you can get lost in the audible noise
Yeah.
of everything, much like sometimes in visual noise you get lost in it. But everything, every beat, every note, every chirp, every click, every clack was so greatly mixed. I think it has a legit shot for that.
Well, I think there's at the WB lot, or no, sorry, at Universal, they have, nope, it is WB. The WB lot, they have this one section you can go in and see and listen to the sound mixing for Gravity. And they put in each different layer of the music versus the dialogue versus the sound of space versus all of these things. And that was the first time where I really understood more
Mixing.
what sound mixing is, because you hear mixing and sound editing and you're like, it
difference?
sounds cool to me. So if you want to know more about that, go check it out because it's really cool. And it gives you such a greater respect for when it does sound really
Yeah.
great and you don't hear any weirdness in the film.
All right, that's everything in the world of Star Wars movie news. Really stacked. A lot of great stories this week in the movie news. And now we get to the part of the show that we simply call What's the Deal with Canon? Everything in the world of Star Wars, the books, the comics, the video games, novels, anything that ties back into the movies. We talk about it here. Mark, What's up first?
Kristian, Star Wars Rebels on January 20th has an episode called A Princess on Lothal. Who's that princess?
It's Leia.
You are correct. Tiffany Smith. Princess Leia will be making her debut on the animated series, and this seems like something that maybe a few Star Wars fans might want to check out.
Yeah, I think so, and I'm certainly one of those Star Wars fans. And the thing is, I think they said this is going to be her only appearance this entire season, but it'll be geared around her, which is also fine by me. I saw a little clip. They have a little bit on the Star Wars YouTube channel. You can go watch that right now if you want to. And some complaints I saw were that fact that she sounds too old already. She's 15. She's Ezra's age. Why does she sound so old? When Princess Leia was 19 in episode 4, she sounded like she was 40. So I don't have a problem with that at all. She's always been tough. She's bossing around Ezra and Kanan, and I'm fine with that because that's who she is. I can't wait to see her. Tiffany, you're not excited about this at all?
I'm so excited about this. It made me feel like in Lost Stars, when I don't think it's a spoiler, but the scene where they go to the dance and she's there and they're both like, oh, what, Leia's here? Like, that's so
There's
amazing.
There's an intergalactic dance and oh God! Are there Jedi kittens?
No Jedi kittens.
But that's how I felt when this happened, when they said she was going to be on Rebels. I do think it's really interesting that they're making it clear that just for this season, this is her only appearance, which makes me believe, okay, that means maybe next season we're going to get a lot more of her.
You would assume so. I mean, the Rebellion's going to kick into full gear in the show eventually. But John, do you like that she's coming into the show?
Oh, absolutely. Because it makes a lot of sense on several levels. Look, we know that her father had a lot of dealings with Obi-Wan. How does she know where to find Ben? I think ultimately she's going to find that out through Kanan, who finds that out.
That's a great point.
Not this season. That's not going to happen this season.
But eventually, yeah.
But the scene itself in question that's been released online already is so true to the character.
Yeah.
Like, that is Princess Leia. The only thing missing was actual Carrie Fisher doing the voice, which might have come across as a little weird. But other than that, like, that is exactly how she would carry herself. That's exactly how she would walk. That's exactly how she would talk. A little demeaning, a little whatever. That's totally her. Talking down to somebody. Yup, that's her. I loved it. I loved every second of it. Can't wait to see her.
And this is going to be a Princess Leia that just got her daddy's BMW for the first time. Just flexing some muscle that she may or may not actually have yet. But I'm excited about this because I enjoy Rebels. I like watching that. Seeing her is going to be great. As a fan of A New Hope, I like having some of that backstory supplemented. But also, there's another Star Wars movie taking place around that time period coming out in December of this year. I can't believe I just said that. She might factor into there now. They're setting up a lot of story here. Is that just going to be for the future of Rebels, or will that be tying more into Rogue One?
Yeah, it's a great point. Okay, what's next?
Well, we finally know the name of the stormtrooper who called out Finn as a traitor, and my God, does he wield a good axe. Now, Kristian, this guy's name is, are you ready?
Yep.
FN2199. That's not his Kristian name, but that's his name in the First Order. His friends call him Nines, and Nines and Finn served together when they were coming up through the ranks, which would partially explain why he felt so heartbroken when Finn decided to go good, and they had that epic battle that did not end in Nines' favor.
Yeah, now if you look at that picture that's up there right now, I guess it's over there. Right there. Where is he? I can't get my hand in there.
Behind you.
You can put that back. My shot, Dennis. No, the bottom one there. So I can't get my hand. There he is. He's right there.
He's Irish.
Yeah, he's a little guy. He's the red hair. That is Nines, and I think that this all came because I guess they wanted people. He caught fire on the internet. People love him, so they wanted to explain exactly who he is. And this is from the book Before the Awakening, which I've finished half of it, and I really enjoy it. It's just a nice backstory for Rey and for Finn and for Poe. I finished Rey and I finished Finn, but I haven't gotten to the Poe part yet. But I did get through this story, and I did go through Nines, and that's why they were very competitive, and you could tell how they were kind of. It always reminded me, even in the trailers before into the movie, Universal Soldier with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren reminded me a lot. Reminded me a lot of that. So it's cool. Now we don't know if he's completely dead. He was shot with that bowcaster, got blasted pretty well, but it would be very interesting because of the kind of popularity. What's funny is that they were trying to build out Phasma, like the next Boba Fett, and this guy has taken on more of that kind of, who is that guy? We love that guy. The fan reaction that Boba Fett got in the original trilogy, this guy is getting that. Is there a possibility that this dude comes back?
I don't think that there is. I think they were setting up, look, that bowcaster, I think one of the things they were doing throughout the movie was showing how brutal the bowcaster was, so that we could understand a little bit what Kylo Ren was dealing with in the final scenes, having been shot with it, right? But going back to Phasma, I can't remember who first brought this up to me, but it's told true. Phasma would have been, would have been a 10 times better character had she been on that planet, and she's the one that then goes and fights Finn. Yeah. And because ultimately, Nines beats Finn,
right?
And then it isn't until Han shoots him and saves him. That should have been Phasma's role. That would have made Phasma so much more watchable. But they did that. But they shot him. They killed him. I think he's gone.
Do you think that there's any chance, because that's one of the weak things for The Force Awakens for me, is Phasma. Built up to be this big thing. Thought we would get more from her. She kind of just like bows down and like takes the security down on the ship. I was like, maybe there's a chance that she's somehow like a resistance fighter within the ranks of the First Order, and that's why she's not necessarily on the planet, that she's doing enough to stay hidden.
She gives the order to kill all those villagers, like, and she's okay with it. It's like,
maybe she felt bad afterwards.
I'm just trying to find a way where she would be badass still.
Dear Diary,
it's like,
did something I really regret.
What do you think, Mark?
Does
he come back? Is he dead?
I think he's dead. But
dead.
Great for this dude, because it's just the GIF on the internet of just him like turning that thing on. It's awesome. So that's a career making moment right there in and of itself. You can retire. You can move back to wherever you came from and get free drinks for the rest of your life because you are Nines.
Do we know who the actor is?
Well, there was a little controversy.
There was an actor I think an English actor, was taking credit for it, like going on Twitter saying, "Hey,
and
thanks
it's
everybody."
not.
No, he was writing out.
Turns out he was not.
And it was a stuntman. I think Dennis told me about this. Like the actual Star Wars account wrote out and said, "No, that's not him." No,
dude, like, how do you think you're gonna go on the internet and be like, "This is totally me. I totally did that. That was my shot," and then.
But what happened was. Okay. Now, moving on. Now it is Twitter time. This is when you guys get involved. Throughout the weeks and months, you guys submit hashtag Collider Jedi Council. We go through those questions on Twitter. We pick out a bunch and we answer them. Mark, what's up first?
Billy Oates writes, "Hey, did you guys see me as a stormtrooper in Force Awakens?" Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Brian Blog Star Wars, great name, writes, "Whatever happened with Marvel Star Wars C-3PO issue number 1? I want to know about the red arm."
It's a great question. I actually, Tiffany, you're the resident.
It comes out February 24th, I believe.
Okay.
I don't remember what they said the original date was going to be that it was coming out.
But it is the 24th.
I believe it's the 24th. That was the last thing I saw online.
I'm not. Look, the Chewie comic has got me even less excited about this one, but I am curious how the red arm thing came about.
Yeah.
So
I feel like them even making the nod to it in the film was weird if they're not ever going to explain.
And the last shot of the movie, he doesn't have the red arm. It's gold.
It's
why?
replaced.
It's like
the ultimate big answer here is who the hell cares? It's completely irrelevant and has no meaning or impact on the story.
But it's here's the thing. C-3PO would be the droid that would be like, "Look what happened! I was in this battle." That was a bad impression.
No, please continue. I think that was great. Keep going.
But would show up to be like, "Look what I did," kind of thing. So if the one-off is just like a story of a battle that he's involved in, and then his arm gets taken, he gets the red arm put on.
Significant, like
it's
Kylo
kind of
Ren
just like a fun, silly side note.
You care? No. Okay, what's next?
Jonathan Peck writes, "Is it true at one point that Brad Bird was the first choice to direct The Force Awakens?"
Certainly was. He was the guy that they wanted, and then I think that they went after. I actually do think they went after JJ first, though, and then he turned it down because I think and then for the story that. Who the hell knows what the real story is, but the big story that was out there was that JJ was approached. He said no. They went after Brad Bird, and they wanted Brad Bird, and Brad Bird turned it down because of Tomorrowland. Then they went after Matthew Vaughn, and they went after a couple other people, and then that's when Spielberg called JJ and said, you got to do this. You got to do this.
My understanding is a little bit different, and yours could be totally right.
I might be wrong.
The way I understood it was they went after Bird first. He turned it down. Then they went and approached JJ.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
He turned it down. At that point, they didn't approach anybody else. They opened up the net. And said,
they went after Vaughn, though. I heard.
I know. No, they talked to Vaughn, but they hadn't decided. Hey, we want Vaughn. Let's go. Hey, he's one of the guys we're interested. I think they talked to about 6 or 7 people that they were interested in, and we're going to try to pick out them. Then Turner was like, "No, I got to take another shot at JJ," and she went back to JJ, and ultimately
Kennedy, you mean?
Kennedy, sorry.
Did
I say Kathleen Turner?
I do it all the time.
Totally different scenario.
So JJ, I really think you should do this movie.
I was like, "Who's Turner? I don't know anything about Star Wars."
Yeah.
Episode 7, Romancing the Force.
Want a cigarette?
They could totally have a spinoff with Leia and her, though.
Just, I want you to do an homage. Can you do an homage?
The thing that I think, though, stands out with all of these rumors is that these directors were taking it so seriously, taking a moment to say, you know, do I really want to do this? What does this bring to me? What can I bring to it? And with Brad Bird, and the rumor being that he turned it down for Tomorrowland, it was because he didn't want to have to fit himself into another story. He wanted to do something original, which unfortunately
Bad move.
didn't turn out so well. But maybe still a great move for him. Great move for JJ for sure, and for us, because I really enjoyed the movie. But I like the fact that these directors were really taking the heaviness and the weightiness of taking on this film to heart before they said, yeah, I'll do it, I'll make a ton of money.
Excuse me, Miss Turner, I think you took one of my McNuggets.
Get out of here.
You ever see her in Californication?
She was great.
She was great in Californication.
She's
so
so good.
funny.
And in Friends. She had a good run in Friends, too.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Howie Warlock Wood writes, turns out Greg Grunberg's character in The Force Awakens is Temmin Wexley from Aftermath. Think we'll see others from the book soon.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I keep wanting to bring this to the attention of the council every week. I love, even though Aftermath is probably one of my least favorite books out of the canon series, I love that Greg Grunberg was indeed Wexley from Aftermath, because it to me showed that it's not just them throwing books and comics over here, that it does play into the universe. And albeit even if it is a smaller character, it still shows that this universe that I'm reading about or watching on, it's all looped together. And I also liked the idea that I saw this kid grow up, and he was kind of a snot-nosed kid, and he did some stupid stuff in Aftermath, and it turned out all right for him, and he followed in his mother's footsteps. I want to find out more about him now, and it actually makes me a little interested to see if Wending can get it back on track in the sequel to Aftermath, because if the second Aftermath fails, I don't know if I'm going to care about the third one. But did you like the idea?
This is what I wish I want more of.
Yeah, me too.
I want more of the connections in this way to the books and films, because I think it is something where it's like, if you're a reader, it definitely adds to it. It doesn't take anything away if you don't know his backstory for a film watcher. And that's what I love. I love the fact that, they are talking about stuff. And knowing that Greg Grunberg is one of JJ's friends, I think it adds gravitas to the fact that it wasn't just like, hey, I'm going to put you in, buddy. You're going to be that guy on the ship and you're going to get a couple lines. It's like, no, he actually is a character that has a story, that has been involved, and that could have a lot more moving forward. We don't know.
I know you're not a fan of Aftermath in general, but the fact that they did this and tying in the canon stuff, you have read other canon stuff. Do you like this move?
It was irrelevant. I mean, I didn't even really, because when it doesn't change, for me personally, it doesn't change one thing about my understanding or experience of the movie. Like you mentioned,
Force Awakens, but it doesn't have to, though.
No, I understand, but I said like 99% of the audience that went in there had no idea. Do they even say his name in the movie?
No,
I can't remember.
Maybe definitely a novel, but I see where you're going with this. But my thing is that this is where we've always talked about, and we talked about this years even before the movie came out, that what it's going to be is that you don't have to catch up on all the canon, and what this is a nice reward for the canon readers.
It's a nice little reward.
That's my point.
My feeling is I have no problem with it at all.
Right.
But I don't have any positive feelings towards it either. To me, it's kind of inconsequential. But you're right. It is just a nice little wink to the people who read the books, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And Mark, you don't read. What do you think?
I don't read at all, but I do want to hang with Greg Grunberg. Dude, just sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to go to Applebee's, first round's on me.
I want him on the show. Okay, what's next?
Next up is Cambier Julian with a great question. What if Anakin didn't fall to the dark side? Would you like to have a what if movie or novel?
I don't know if I want a what if movie. I know they do what if comics here and there, but I love that picture so much of the old grizzled Anakin Skywalker, man. Because the thing is, in a what if, you'd assume that he didn't go to the dark side and he didn't kill Mace Windu and he took out Palpatine. What's the story?
There's no movie left. It's like,
there's nothing.
Remember who you are. He says to Anakin, it's like, you're right, Mace. He
kills him.
Killed the Emperor, and that's it.
Well,
no more movies.
We don't know what other threats there might have been later on down the line, and then Luke was born, and he trains his son. I mean, I'd actually like to see a what if novel. I'd be interested. It's obviously it wouldn't be canon, but I'd be very interested to see that. I don't think they'll ever do it.
The what ifs are fan fiction.
Yeah.
Like the what ifs. The picture is super cool.
I love that
and
picture.
I've definitely read some of the what if comics. But it's almost like the novelizations that came out that now they're saying are not part of canon. Like that's what If would be. If they do that, fine. I'm not super excited about it. I don't have to read it. I definitely don't want to see a movie of it because I think then it is
confusing.
Just putting something in where it's like, is this now going to be canon? Is someone going to decide we're going to make 10 more movies and we're going to go down that what if route?
Right. What do you think?
I would love to see just what the story is, particularly on Luke Skywalker. Like, I want to know how he matriculated through life if he wasn't just this farm boy who lived with his aunt and uncle, if he actually had like a dad who was high up somewhere in the
That means
Jedi.
Padme wasn't dead either, yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
Padme
Yeah,
was pregnant by this point.
Yeah.
So he's got a mother figure. He's growing up. He's probably got some money to spend. You know, he might become a douche. Like, we don't know what happens to Luke Skywalker if he has
Maybe
a
he goes
privileged
to the
life.
dark side.
That's a great point. Yeah. So I want to see this.
I can already see the trailer for it because the trailer would be just like The Good Dinosaur. You know, where the trailer starts, the dinosaur's eating, and then the comet is coming towards Earth and just goes overhead. So the trailer starts with him sitting there looking at Mace Windu going, yeah, and they just both turn and cut off
It's like
the Emperor's
Inglourious
head.
Bastards.
Yes, and that's the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah.
I can see it.
All right, what's next?
Jeffrey Brown writes, is John Williams returning to score Episode 8?
It's a great question that I don't have the answer to. I would assume so. Is it up on IMDb?
IMDb wouldn't be trustworthy, so I don't know if it is or not. I have always assumed, so based on nothing, okay,
Yeah.
I've always assumed that they were doing with John Williams for the score what they do with the director for the first episode of a television series. They're going to bring in John Williams, the master, get him to do the score, set the tone. Now, you know what, get all the themes set for the major characters, and then get like a Michael Giacchino or somebody like that will come in and pick up at that point. I haven't heard that that is what's happening. I haven't heard that he's not coming back. I'm going to stick with the guess, though, that I think we're going to see a new musical composer for episode 8. That's just my guess, but that's where I'm at.
What do you think?
I really hope that he's staying on board for all 3 of these, for the next 2. I would like to see other composers come in for the
anthologies.
Star Wars anthology stories, whichever they're being called at this point.
I'm sticking with anthologies.
But that, I think, would be really cool because then it is, another composer's take on what John Williams has done for the movies. I want him to keep going.
What do you think?
Yeah,
Coming back?
if it ain't broke, don't fix it just yet.
All right, what's next?
Next up is Michael Kennedy, and I can actually answer for Kristian on this one. Do you think an animated TV show about young Han Solo in the style of Rebels would work better than the spin-off movie? Kathleen Turner says yes.
I think also that he should. It should be animated over a movie. I much
Sounds
rather.
cool.
I think an animated TV series for Han Solo would have worked a lot better.
And all you have to do is do the voice. You just have to worry about the voice.
That's
now.
what Anthony and Gruber could have done for the voice.
Right,
for
Gruber
Rebels.
totally could have done
Would you
that.
rather see animated series than you would have seen
Again, third option, neither, but I
Yeah.
would rather an animated series than a movie.
I disagree with both of you.
Yeah.
I think that Han Solo's story has so much more edge to it. It can be a little grittier. It can also have that like dark, edgier, more adult humor that I don't think you can do with an animated. Maybe if it was animated on not Disney XD.
You got to wait some pretty grisly stuff on Rebels.
Yeah, but it's different because it's like, Han's like going around being a playboy. You know that he's dealing with
Look at Lando.
Jabba.
Look what they did with Lando. And
Yeah, but
Lando
he had like
was trying
a
to get
couple
Hera in the
moments
sack.
of flirting. Like,
Yeah.
I am excited about what they're gonna do in the film. I think it's a better option film than animated.
Question. Let me ask another one. A follow up to Michael's. Is it if they had a Han Solo that they had just cast and they announced it and it was Ralph Biscuits, right?
Yeah.
He's the new Han Solo.
He's awesome.
And we all loved the choice. We're like, oh my God, that guy was great on that TV show. He was awesome on Dawson's Creek. Now he's playing Han Solo. This is great news. Would you still feel the same way about wanting to see a TV show over a movie?
Good question. Good question. It's a good what if.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
well.
All right, what's next?
Thanks for playing
No
my
one
game.
answers.
I guess I'll just go back to reading the questions like a good monkey.
You have one job, Mark. One job.
Right. Do you think we'll ever see a film, series, comic? I should just leave now. Dealing with the early days of this Jedi Order and Sith conflicts.
I do think we'll see at least a comic book or a novel or game developed in that period. I think that it's a great time period to find out what the early days of the Jedi and the Sith and how far along, because eventually they're going to have to establish what the old Republic was like, because the Legends one is gone. Was there a Revan? Was there not? Was there something else? I think eventually, now I'm not talking about in 2 years. It could be 5, it could be 10, but eventually they will get to this time period. John, what do you think?
I think within the next 6 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking comic book. I'm thinking a Star Wars anthology film will be set in the Old Republic within the next 6 years. I really believe that.
Tiff?
I think if it's not an anthology film, it's the TV series that they've been rumors about circling. I think it would be awesome. I think that that's what everyone kind of wants to see. Because
like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. You want to see the political sides of things in a different way, in a faster paced way than just talking about it.
I think they're being smart about how they're pacing it too, because right now in a room somewhere there's probably a lot of ballyhooing going forth about what exactly is going to be canon going forward, and you need to lock all that stuff down. It's got to be airtight before you can start greenlighting projects. So as soon as that happens, and it might take a while, you're going to get a lot more stuff from that era.
Let's do 2 more.
2 more. Gary David Williams writes, are the anthology movies a mistake? Shouldn't they be filling in the gap from Jedi to The Force Awakens?
That's all right. We got a different one.
We read it.
2 different ones.
Mark spoke well.
That's all right. We'll read the one that you have, Mark, and then we'll go back to the one
He just did.
Are the
Gary David Williams writes, are the anthology movies a mistake? Shouldn't they be filling in the gap from Jedi to Force Awakens?
No.
So I don't think he's just saying these anthology movies are stupid, but should they be focusing on that 30-year time period?
No, because they can do that. There's so much time, like in the fictional universe and in our world, that we can. There's so much time to do that. Like, and we don't know what they're gonna do. And I think people will be more accepting that in 10, 15 years from now, if they do a Luke Skywalker movie with a new actor filling in those gaps, then they will be like today.
Do you think though it's gonna, like, I'm just curious, because even talking with people who are casual Star Wars fans, they were like, wait, when does The Force Awakens take place? And explaining where it falls in the timeline. And then if we get to a point where it's like, hold on, this character that you met in Rogue One, they're gonna have a different time. They're from this period and it's over here, and Luke's not there, he's here. Like, I feel like they're gonna have to be really careful moving forward with the anthology films to not completely confuse people as to what time period they're
that's what I
taking
want to
place
see how
in.
people deal, non-Star Wars hardcore fans deal with Rogue One.
I honestly think we're underestimating people, and you won't hear me say that very often. But if people can follow the television show Lost, they will be able to understand when you got a 1 year lead up to a one movie. I think they're going to be able to explain this movie happens before the events of the original Star Wars.
Right.
This one is real time. It's 30 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. I really don't think it's going to be that difficult.
I just think you have too many questions about, well, then why didn't you just start episode 7 with this? Like, why would you go 30 years ahead of time only to go back for another prequel, which isn't the best word to throw around in the Star Wars universe right now. So I think they're doing it very, very wisely.
I like the way they're doing
I agree. And don't be surprised. There will be, especially after episode 8 comes out, there will be a novel about where Luke went after Return of the Jedi. There will be comic books. I mean, they just announced...
Absolutely there will be.
And I didn't have a chance to put this in notes because it just came out, but Poe is getting his own comic book. That came out today. I forgot to mention that before. All right, last question of the day.
Last question of the day is, will it be Alice? Will it be Chase? Let's find out after the break. Or I'll just read a question. Alice Devaney.
Chase,
there he is. Chase, speaking of Poe, what are the possibilities of Poe's Dameron's parents appearing in Rogue One or other anthology films?
I think it could. This goes back to the conversation we just had about Wexley. I think that it's possible. Now, whether or not they have huge roles, I don't know how likely that is. But I think that I'd love to see him in Rogue One. I think that now whether or not they signed up at that point, I don't know. But I'd love to see. And I also like to see Thane or Sienna from Lost Stars have a cameo in Rogue One. So. Yeah, I think it's possible.
I think it's definitely possible. I think it would be cool and interesting. I also think there is kind of this where we got a really good story about his parents in the comics. Do we have to get kind of a epic story about them in the films? No. I think if you really get excited about the character, that's when people are going to go back and look up other things and say, I love Poe. I want to know everything about him. Where are the comics? Where are the other books that have more info about him? And that's what I think is more fun. I don't think it always necessarily has to be every character that appears in the comics has to at some point appear on the TV or film or whatever other screens there are. Your phone.
Totally possible. I think it would be a mistake. I mean, not every character we have in Star Wars has to have their older brother was the one who built that first Star Destroyer, or their
But I mean,
mother
do you think
was.
like a cameo, like a little cool
I mean,
cameo?
no, they could. They totally could. I think it's very, very possible. I just think it would be pointless.
But we know his parents had involvement
Yes,
already.
to some degree,
so
yes,
it's
they
not
did.
saying they're changing,
Right.
like,
They're
oh,
not
we're going to make
retconning
his,
anything.
yeah.
I mean, between Han and Jabba and now Poe's parents, Rogue One's going to be an Adam Sandler movie. We keep letting all these cameos in, so I don't think we need everything. But his daddy was a fighter pilot, right?
They both were.
They were both fighter
Oh, no,
pilots.
I think
His
he
mother was.
His
Someone
mother
was
was a
on the
pilot.
ground.
His
Mom was
dad
a
was on the
pilot.
ground.
Yeah.
Dad was
Yeah.
was a flight attendant. So they hooked up right
soldier.
after Return of the Jedi. So, you know, it's a little bit of time, but maybe you could see it.
We'll see. Okay, guys, that is this episode of Collider Jedi Council. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, share your opinions on everything that we've talked about today. Comment in the comment section below and let us know everything that you thought we were right about, wrong about, things that you want to see. Do it all, and make sure that you also share this show with other fellow Star Wars fans. I'd also like to thank the council. First of all, the Smith Lord, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, because I got a lot of questions about that, at Tiffany's Tweets. And you can check out this week on Fandango Movie Clips, Movie Threesome with Kristian and I that goes up, and we're actually headed to Sundance, so I'm super pumped about that. And soon DC All Access will be back up and running as well. Oh, and you guys always have been asking a lot on Instagram. I try and post what I'm wearing because I get a lot of cool Star Wars stuff. And this is my Vader jacket from her universe, and I always get the comments where it's like, I want to buy that for my girlfriend or my daughter. So I'll try and keep you guys posted more on Insta.
Mark 2 D2, where can they find you, sir?
Well, on Instagram, I post what I'm not wearing. You can find me
Gross.
there, and on Twitter at Mark Ellis Live. And a week from right now, I'll be taking the stage at Nashville Zany's Comedy Club. I'm there Thursday through Sunday next week. Come on by and say hi, you Tennesseans.
John Campia, where can I find you?
I need fire to burn that image out of my head. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campia. Keep your eye open for my new book, The Pride, which is coming out here pretty quickly. And a special shout out to the guy who was the co-host with Kristian and I for the first number of episodes of Jedi Council when we first ran our pilot test season for it last year.
Yeah.
Paul Enns worked at Lucasfilm, ran theforce.net, all that kind of stuff. He is at home right now recovering from major surgery. And our thoughts go out to you, Paul. Best wishes. Get well soon.
Absolutely. Get better, Paul. He's an awesome dude, and he knows his Star Wars. And me, I'm Kristian Harloff, at Kristian Harloff, both Instagram and Twitter. And I just saw this comment. Why not? I'll bring attention to this.
Oh, God.
No, it's just an old video that I posted a long time ago. You got to go and check out Kristian Does Stand-Up Comedy Part 1. I want to see what the Jedi Council fans think of that
The
video.
sequel's darker. It's like Empire.
Yeah, if you hate it, great. Go ahead and
They're
comment.
gonna
and let me
love
know.
it. You were funny.
We'll see. So that's it. That's our
Were
show.
is
We'll
the
be back.
key word.
John and Mark will actually not be here next week. It'll be Tiffany, myself, and we'll try to fill in the council seats. But check us out, and may the force be with you.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.